The Earth is headed for the sixth mass extinction. Our planet has had 5 mass extinctions in the last 500 million years. And the last one, which happened some 60 million years ago, wiped out some 50% of plants and animals. This extinction will be the first to be caused by humans, primarily through deforestation, actually. And add to that Putin's threat to use nuclear arms to the mix, and the threat of nuclear war will always be with us so long as ignorant humans overpopulate our planet. So this is about to change, and it must change in order to survive these catastrophes. Simultaneously, spiritually, we just began the dark age of Kali Yuga about 5,000 years ago, and it is supposed to continue for another 427,000 years. Plenty of time for mankind to destroy everything. Krishna's presence 5,000 years ago was a kind of boost to help us through that. And there came another one with Maharishi in our lifetime. All of these dangers require a divine intervention. And our generation is living in that time of that intervention. Just one generation ago, His Divinity Swami Brahmananda Saraswati, called Gurudev, was the last person on earth to be the custodian of the lost knowledge of something called Raja Yoga, the yoga of kings, the meditation of kings. Yoga really means union, and the positions people go through and call it yoga, that's called asana. So it's the yoga of kings, the union of kings, the union of the small self with the large self. Meditation techniques that were suitable for the householder and not used in ashrams or caves, because these techniques make one more dynamic in activity. That's what Gurudev was safeguarding. The technique was preserved in the last vestiges of the ancient Vedic civilization, which is in the foothills of the Himalaya. Forget the rest of India. They lost the knowledge. They're responsible for that, and that's why they're in a state of deterioration. This knowledge was safeguarded there in an ashram by one enlightened master after another, handed down in a long tradition of secrecy to protect it from disintegration. It was passed down from teacher to disciple for thousands of years. It was also special because the technique gave the experience of the self as unbounded, instantly, and without effort. Unlike the techniques that have degenerated into concentration and contemplation, thinking about something or focusing the mind, and used in a solitary life for an entire lifetime. This is the tragedy of India outside of the foothills of India. The last person to know that technique of having the experience instantly was His Divinity Swami Brahmananda Saraswati, who was recognized in his time as the most enlightened saint of all. he lived until after World War II. He was called Gurudev, and as he came near to the end of his life, he gathered his disciples around and called one of them to him and gave him the secret knowledge and gave him the task of finally giving out the secret knowledge to the entire world. He did this because he knew our planet was on the verge of annihilation. He had already witnessed the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Gurudev wanted one of his disciples to bring this precious knowledge to as many souls as possible, to save them from destruction and to prevent the complete destruction of our planet. The disciple he rewarded with this knowledge and this task was the disciple he trusted most, and who was the most devoted to Gurudev. That disciple was called Mahesh. After Gurudev's passing, a crowd of thousands of people gathered around Mahesh to learn this simple, natural mental technique that required no effort and could give a person the experience of unbounded awareness in the very first meditation. During those few days, he also lectured on the Vedas, the Ved, how the sound of the first word of the Vedic literature contains the entire enormous volumes of the four Vedas, which are really infinite in their full form, and written down by the ancient seers in the first language, Sanskrit, with such response. He told the multitudes that since the response was so great, that so many people came to hear this knowledge, they should bring this technique to the whole world and bring enlightenment to everyone and peace on earth. And the crowd erupted in joyous, thunderous applause. And they helped pay for Maharishi to go all over the world. And he went first to the United States. The enlightened saints who had come to hear him speak those few days knew that this person was single-handedly reviving the ancient lost Vedic knowledge and recognized his awareness as being evidence that he was a rishi, a person not just enlightened, but someone who could cognize, who could realize and see and hear the very impulses of silence that structure the entire universe and explain the steps that brought forth the universe. For those reasons, the saints who attended began to call him a Maharishi, a great rishi. They recognized him as such. The hierarchy goes like this. First, there's Guru on that level. Gu is darkness. Ru is out. So it's darkness out. The Guru has the ability to give someone a technique to get enlightened. More evolved is Avatar, someone who incarnates only once in 11,000 years or so. So his very presence on Earth will help a planet through a troubled time. Krishna was the last avatar to do this, and he was on the earth in the last days just before the dark age of Kali Yuga began. And he died on the day that Kali Yuga began. Higher up is someone called a Siddha, who has mastered all of the spiritual powers. Above that is Rishi, someone with all of the powers those enlightened men have, that I've just mentioned, but also the power to cognize the Vedic sounds that structure the whole universe. Above that is what is called a Maharishi, a great rishi, someone who incarnates not once every 11,000 years, but he incarnates once in the lifespan of a universe, which is 311.4 trillion earthly years. This is what those saints in Utakashi saw in this young disciple. And so they gave him the title of Maharishi. He did not name himself. Great Rishi. For all of the great accomplishments he made in one lifetime, he is remembered as His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I'm going to be bold in these next few videos, because when a planet like ours is lifted up to a spiritual state, dark forces incarnate and rise to power to prevent that spiritual shift. So, subscribe so you won't miss the next video, and spread this video to others.